The processing control section of your gateway account only pertains to merchants that are accepting payments through some type of integration, whether it's through a website or an integrated software solution. The first section you see when you click the drop-down menu and select Processing Control and click Go is the Disabled Integrations subsection. What you'll find here is a list of integration types available for your account, which include the Authorize.net emulation, the Database Engine API, Miva Merchant integrations, the Transparent Database Engine API, or the web order forms, which include the order form generator, or when you're using our very own shopping cart. If you click on any of these checkboxes, your account will not allow any transactions coming from these integration types. The Advanced subsection is only to be used by developers that are using either the Transparent Database Engine API or the Authorize.net emulation integration methods. The first thing you'll encounter here is the ability to restrict transactions that come in using the Transparent Database Engine API or the Authorize.net emulator integration. If you enable this feature, all transactions coming from these integration types will be declined unless the correct restrict key is presented by the transaction. All you have to do is click the checkbox to enable the restrict key and then click on Generate Restrict Key and you're done. If you would like to allow returns or refunds using the same integration types, you can click Allow Return Credit Transactions and then click Save Return Policy. There are merchants who would prefer not to receive a copy of the email that is sent to customers after a transaction has been processed. If the merchant you're working with prefers not to receive emails, select the Do Not Send Transactions email to me box and then save the transaction email policy. If you would only like to allow transactions that come from one specific IP address, you would type in the IP address here and then click Add. If you leave it empty, any transactions that come in from any IP address will be processed. Let's move on now to the pre-processing subsection. This subsection pertains to merchants that are using the web order template, which includes the order form generator and the database engine template integration. The first part has to do with the maximum number of approved transactions per IP address. Many people refer to this as velocity checking. What this does is limit the maximum number of approved transactions per IP address within a fixed number of minutes. For example, if a hacker was able to obtain thousands of stolen credit card numbers and would like to use your account to check the validity of those credit card numbers for future use, this setting allows your website or integration to limit any damage this may cause and any subsequent charges that will inevitably come down from the processor. The max declined transaction attempts per IP allows you to limit the number of declined transactions per IP address within a certain number of minutes. This comes in handy with customers that keep trying to process the same credit card transaction even though their credit card has already been declined several times. Remember though, leaving these settings at 0 will not limit the transaction attempts. Moving on now to the processing subsection, which has to do with how transaction requests through your website will be processed. This subsection pertains to merchants that are using the web order template, which includes the order form generator and the database engine template integration. Here you're presented with three different options. The first option is labeled Sales, and this means that any transaction that is processed through your website or integration method you'll see here will be treated as a regular sale. What this means is that we will send this transaction to the processor as one that is ready for settlement. In other words, it is ready to be funded to you, the merchant. The second option is labeled Authorization Only. If you check this option, every single transaction that gets processed will come through as an authorization only. What that means is that you manually have to go to the batch report area and approve transactions as ones that are ready for settlement before we actually send them to the processor for funding. The third option is auth converts. This section is a set of conditional values that will either allow the transaction to be automatically converted into a sale or simply be processed as an authorization only transaction and therefore wait for your manual approval. These transactions will automatically be converted to sales if the transaction is approved, the AVS response code matches one of the codes below, and the CVV2 code, which is the 3-digit code on the back of the credit card if we're talking about Visa and MasterCard, also matches one of the selected CVV2 responses below. So again, transactions will only be converted into a sale if we have a match on the AVS codes below or the CVV2 codes below. For example, we can say, okay, we only want to convert transactions to sales if the address and the zip code information that was entered by the customer during checkout matches exactly what is on file with the credit card issuing bank. If it is not a match, it could potentially mean that this is a fraudulent transaction, and many merchants feel more comfortable picking up the phone and speaking with the customer to verify the validity of the transaction. The same thing can be said for any of the other codes seen here on the screen. Once we're done, click on Process Transactions as Update, and then you've completed setting the processing control section of your gateway account.